Hello everyone. I'm trying to get some better lighting here. Uh, I guess that's about who wants to look at my face anyway. All right, so I'm just coming here to talk a little bit about Nightmare Press. There's only been one video uploaded. We've had a lot going on. Just a little update. Um, we've been going through the submissions. We've gotten a lot of good submissions for a variety of stories ranging from horror to dark sci-fi to dark fantasy, very epic dark fantasy. We've got some alternate history. Um, it's going to be tough to make these decisions when the time comes. So it'll be interesting to see, and a lot of unique voices, a lot of good, talented authors, a lot of the unique voices of people who have written several stories but haven't really gotten to be heard on the internet side of things very much, even though they've done fairly well for themselves beyond everyone's usual idea of the Facebook dark fiction community. But like I said, Nightmare Press is looking to bring that sort of profession, the community of people who write beyond Facebook groups and everything into the fold. That way, we can create a more inclusive and varied, diverse um, pool of authors and stories out there. So it's not just the same 15 people over and over writing the same book like they do. And so we're wanting to bring new voices in, not voices who are new to writing, but new to this sector. Of course, Nightmare Press has reached, like I've mentioned before, in case y'all didn't notice or haven't heard my other videos, um, our goal has always been to reach beyond the Facebook dark fiction community of the circle of people who mostly just share their books on Facebook and sell their books to their followers on Facebook. We're trying to open that platform more for those people over here who are selling their books, in stores and selling their books off their websites and selling their books off other social media platforms and actually selling their books to people in person. And we're trying to bring them in and trying to make a combination of the two. That way, they have better access to the online community, and that way, um, other writers who are being kept out of the network will have an opportunity to get their voices into, to get their stories in there, and not with just Nightmare Press, but with other presses that we're talking to. And that way, that'll kind of raise the bar and raise the standard of dark fiction as we know it, because there'll be more opportunity for different authors, different genres, and we're open to extreme horror and splatterpunk because we don't have because we like that, and dark erotica, but also at the same time, I'm glad we're getting a lot of stories outside of those genres because that genre is really oversaturated over here in the Facebook writing circles. Um, and it's really kind of a very, very small, very, very minute niche over here. And it's people who mostly sell anywhere from, they sell upwards of like maybe 500 books to some of their friends and a few of the same readers over and over. And that's a good niche to build on. Of course, you got the few who actually, put in the work to expand beyond that, and they're getting like thousands of reviews and stuff. So what we're hoping to do is help open that market up a little bit to a different style, and kind of help that bleed into over here on this side where they're actually gaining more, a more what should I say, a more open field. Um, and it's not just the same few people. I mean, these are people that they read horror magazines, they read science fiction magazines, and they are familiar with science fiction and fantasy um, websites and purveyors and experts and reviewers and all that stuff. So we're hoping that and of course over here there's a consensus, and we're actually wanting to bring a little more visibility to the extreme horror genre, because over here you got the people, like really, like maybe 20% of the horror market. I haven't done the exact research in a while, but the 20% of the actual horror market is that extreme horror currently. And that just happens to be that they're the most prominent, most visible, and most vocal on Facebook. So it appears that they're the biggest, but they're actually not if you look at things. Unless things have changed in the last couple of years, the last time I did the research. But I mean, you can go to bookstores, and I still look at bookstores, online bookstores, and you can tell what the horror genre is looking like on a mainstream level. It's not that. What I'm hoping to do is take the good voices from that niche and that style, which I'm not actually going to probably be able to take the actual authors because of they were already locked in, but like take that style and move it over here, because a lot of the general consensus for a lot of these people over here is that extreme horror is puerile. They think that, and that's not me. I don't think that. I know the opposite. Clive Barker's extreme horror. Richard Lehman is extreme horror. They're far from puerile, their work. And but because the standard is so low in that little corner of Facebook, that's what gets out there, and people are like, that's why they're always like gore for the sake of gore, and there's no story. And they're not wrong about a lot of it, but the problem is that there actually are good authors there who put in the work, and they're not getting noticed because they're more there for the work and not the campfire. And that's the people we're trying to help, and we want to show people over here in the more mainstream areas of horror that extreme horror has a home. It's not all puerile trash, and we're hoping to bring that more to light. So that's one goal, and we're also just trying to blend all of dark fiction together so that raises everybody. That's our goal, and we're really working on that. We've got a diverse lineup of books to look at. We're straying away from a lot of the shorter books, because even though that's a big seller over here in the Facebook circles, outside they don't sell that well. I mean, if they're like 100 something pages, they do fine, but like most people over here in the larger section of horror beyond Facebook, they don't want to read 50-page books of just someone running around with a knife stabbing a bunch of people. And I'm not knocking that, because hell, I'm all for that, but that they just don't want to. So we want longer books with actual stories in them, and we want them to be gory and to be creatively gory, and we want them to put them over here. But we also are taking slow burn horror, quiet horror, Lovecraftian / cosmic horror, as long as it's not to the point where you're playing in his sandbox directly, like you're just taking all of his stories and rewriting them. What I consider Lovecraftian, yeah, you can deal with the elder gods and the stuff he created, but don't rely on it. I prefer the / cosmic horror, which is in the vein of Lovecraft, but it's people creating their own stuff instead of just using Cthulhu. It's like, So, but we got a number of stuff. We're looking for dark romance. We're looking for dark erotica, Weird West, all that stuff, all the good stuff. And that's the goal with the press, and we're doing pretty well. I got some initiatives that I want to work on. I'm doing with my blog, Jacob Floyd's Ghosts and Monsters. Next month, I'm going to be publishing interviews from female horror authors, because it's Women in Horror Month, and I'm going to be dealing with that. So I want to take some initiative to help spotlight a lot of the women who don't get a lot of spotlight on the Facebook and on that. I'm going to This year, looking forward, I'm going to do things similar to that. I'm going to try to use the relative months to connect that, to help spotlight people who are just now starting to get their voices heard. People who were once marginalized in the community, who are now finally not, and they're getting to come out and share their stories, and I think that's incredibly important, and I want to be a part of that. So even though like in literature, the overall literature world, women are the vast majority of the authors, it just seems like for some reason in dark fiction they're not. And within the last 5 or 6, maybe I'd say the last decade, they've started to come out more, and and I want to help continue that. If they're still out there trying to get heard, I want to do that for them. And I'm looking April. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with April. I might look at April as substituting for Missing Black History Month, because I mean there's really a difference between that, I guess, and spotlighting black authors. I would like to probably use April mostly for that, even though there might be some other things regarding April celebrations. I do believe, is it in May that the Pacific Islander and Asian American heritage, and then Mexican heritage in September. So I want to focus on, of course, Pride Month. I want to focus on all that too, but I want to do it right. I don't want to do it. I don't want to make it. I want to be mostly low key about it. I think a lot of people, I think a lot of, particularly the white straight people in the community who tend to do that. I've avoided it before because a lot of those people tend to make it more about them. Like the white people doing it and the straight people doing it tend to make it more about them and how they want to actually spotlight their own inclusive nature, and how progressive they are, and they want to make it more about them. They want to pat on the back more than they do actually wanting to help spotlight these writers. So my goal is, I don't want to talk a whole lot about it, but I do want to do it, and I mention it here for anybody who watches who may be within those groups to maybe reach out to me and tell me beforehand so I can prepare something, because I want to make it about them, not about me. I'm just doing something I think it will help the community. I'm not doing it for people to say, "Oh, Jacob Floyd's a great guy." No, because I'm not. I'm doing this shit because I like the industry, and I want everybody to get a chance. And whatever might hold somebody down, I'm sure that there's probably people out there low key who are homophobic and are like, "I'm not reading a book about someone gay." So I'm sure there's people out there like that. I want to help. If anything is holding any of these people back, I want to help them to get heard. And that's the kind of stuff I want to look forward. I'm not going to go like overboard like some of these people, and I'm not going to be like, well, I'm going to ignore everybody else because I want brownie points. No, I'm doing it to help the community at large. So I don't know about doing anthologies. I'm not a big anthology fan. I think anthologies are, unless you can get like huge names for an anthology, I've never found it to be a great endeavor. We've sold some anthologies fairly well, but normally most people on the bigger in the mainstream thing, I mean, like you got the Facebook people, they'll read these anthologies because everybody involves their friends, so they'll buy them. The publisher's their friend, their authors are their friends. That's not the kind of network we want to create. We don't want a friend network. We want an author network. And when you get out here amongst, the actual readers and consumers who don't care who you are, they're not your friend, they just want to read interesting books, they don't normally buy anthologies. That's why you don't see a ton of anthologies in bookstores, and you never have. Now, if someone can go, there's one out there called Triage. I think it had Edward Lee, Richard Lehman, and maybe Jack Ketchum in it. People are going to buy that because it's Edward Lee, Richard Lehman, and Jack Ketchum, and everybody knows who they are. There was one I came across that had Clive Barker and I think Poppy Z. Brite in it. And of course that's going to sell. People are going to buy that because they have a following. Clive Barker has an enormous following. You could put Clive Barker's name in it, and then you could just put a bunch of nobodies who's never written a story in it, and people are going to buy it because it's Clive Barker. But outside of that, anthologies, like I've noticed some have put Ramsey Campbell in them on the indie scene, and yeah, that's a good idea because he's famous. So, but if I'm not really into doing anthologies. I've not enjoyed doing them in the past. It's the same thing with short story collections. They're not usually a good sell because, again, unless you're somebody who's really well known, like King and Barker, they're masters of the short story and everybody knows it, they don't sell real well. Well, they do, but like others, unless you're that kind of name, you don't sell real well because most times short stories are the product of a dedicated fan base, and most people would rather read a novel. Most people. I know there's other people on Facebook who said I don't have the patience to read a novel, and while they may look like the majority because on Facebook that's who's on Facebook, the reality is books with one story or maybe some stories that connect sell better on a normal than short stories do. And we want to focus more on actual books, but we do have some good short story collections that we may publish. We have a couple currently now, but that's kind of like what we're looking at in the future. I want to do more with this station, this channel. We're looking at doing more shows. Bobby and I are going to put out a podcast eventually, and other people want to put videos on our network, that's fine. And just stuff not even related to writing we might do on the Nightmare Press Network. And of course, our website's finally up after 5 years because I suck at that kind of thing, and I was a one-man show, and a one-man show was going through a lot of personal problems. I never got around to building it. I had a computer that sucked, that was too slow, and I didn't have the patience to try because I would just get pissed off. But Bobby got it done, and it looks good. It's not over the top. It's simple, and that's good for Nightmare Press because we're not about fancy, superficial stuff. We are about the writing, the books, the product, and all in the authors. That's what we're about. So I guess I already ran this video on long enough. Most people probably won't watch past 2 minutes anyway. But that's what's going on. So that's a little bit of what's going on, and I kind of mainly just wanted to make this video to keep the channel moving. But yeah, so just keep watching. For those of you who are excited about a new breed of horror, which is an old breed of horror coming back into the community, we're the people to look at. So yeah, we are the future of dark fiction. Thank you.